What's going on, y'all? It's Liam Crowley with ScreenRant. We're here at South by Southwest, and right now I am joined by the cast and crew of We Bury the Dead. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
This is such a cool take on, can I call it like a zombie movie?
You can call it whatever you want, but zombie movie will be fine.
I went into it completely blind, didn't know what I was in for, and the way that we get the origin of how things transpire is so unique in a genre that has been done to death, no pun intended. What was it like to ensure that We Bury the Dead stood out from the rest of the films that are in a similar genre?
Yeah, well, it was about being very specific and giving things a different nuance and what had been done and how can you make a zombie movie that can cut through all the other zombie movies. And, you know, there was original scripts of this that didn't even have zombies in them. It was only when they started infiltrating the world of the film from a script level that the everything just started to sing a little better. And the situation that Ava finds herself in is then only complemented by the struggle of these zombies as well. So it came from a thematic point of view, and that was the only way I wanted to do it. Like, does it service the story in a way I haven't seen before? And once I sort of cracked that code, it just elevated everything that was almost there on the page, but sprinkling them in and making them a part of it, and then how that just worked on a thematic level was just awesome.
Daisy, every character I've seen you play is so strong-willed. What's it like to kind of master that accent and kind of transfer into a different world like that?
It's interesting because it gives me a different approach to character. When I went back, because I had done 3 movies American, then when I went back to British, I thought, how do I do this? I can't remember how to do this. Because with accent work, I'm preparing in a slightly different way. But I always find accent work to be very revealing, because the way I do it is go through the whole script. We see what comes out, and a lot of the time it's just very helpful speaking it out loud anyway with a different person, and then sort of preparing week by week. But particularly in this, Ava is really the out-of-towner. She is in a situation that she actually shares with a lot of people in the film, but she has flown in to try and figure it out. And by virtue of her being an outsider and her country being responsible for this cataclysmic event, she is also shunned in some ways by the people who are there and find themselves blaming her in some ways for being an American, being part of it all.
Yeah, there is a bit of a power struggle, and Mark, your character of Riley factors into that in an interesting way. Can you kind of tease us about how he fits in and what's going on in Australia right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, Riley makes up the military component of Tasmania, post-apocalyptic situation. So they've got civilians down there, which was always odd to me, that civilians have been brought into this space that's just like heavily, you know, been decimated. There's no life in this space. So the soundtrack to the film's really interesting because of the level of intimacy that you have sonically. I can't wait to hear this in a film space. But so Riley, he's part of the military, but he's actually there, he's actually kind of operating with his own sort of personal agenda and intentions. And they mirror Ava's character in a way. And I think he notices, he hears what she's doing, and it's sort of symbolic of what he's also processing and going through. And so he sort of, there's a gravity between them, and it just kind of gets more and more complex. What's interesting about this film is normally what we see with a zombie film is zombies turn up and everyone's afraid and trying to survive zombies. But that's not the priority of fear for some of these characters in this world. It's the fear for Riley isn't that zombies now exist, and I don't think the fear for Ava is that zombies exist. It's just something they have to put up with while they're struggling to reconcile what's actually happened to them.
Yeah, like all great stories set in this genre, it's about the human beings behind it. Daisy, every time I've seen you in a movie, you've been front and center as like the leading woman. Obviously, when you started on Star Wars, you were the lead of those 3 movies. In the film since that, you've still been leading, and you've had that experience to kind of pull from. When you're going back to that world now with your next Star Wars film, and you have films like We Bury the Dead and Clean Air where it's resting on your shoulders, you're going into Star Wars again with a brand new cast. So what does it feel like to kind of eventually go back to that world and be a leader without the Harrison Fords and Mark Hamills of the world?
I don't know that I ever really see myself as a leader, because the whole is always greater than the sum of the parts. So I've had the opportunity to inhabit amazing characters that have amazing stories and amazing arcs and an amazing emotional sort of journey in whichever space each film provides for that. But I don't know that I think about that so much. I think about creatively staying open and being collaborated with, and I always find it exciting to work with new people. So each film feels like a sort of new discovery in that way.
Very much so. And I say that in the sense of like, you'll be ushering in a new generation.
Yeah.
As far as all we know is that you're the only one returning.
Well, yeah, I started off the youngest and now I won't be that. I'm growing up, I'm an adult. Yeah, and I would hope that, because I've also worked with people who have not been on film sets at all, and knowing how overwhelming it can feel each time, I think we all just hope that the people coming in who are joining anything, whether it's for the first time or the fifth time or a new project, that they feel as comfortable as possible.
Does this story this time around, does it feel as grand as the sequel trilogy, or are we getting a little bit more intimate?
We'll see.
We shall see. Okay. For We Bury the Dead, I also want to talk about the zombie design here. A very distinct feel, because, you know, they are a result of a nuclear blast, effectively. What was it like to kind of bring that from concept art to eventual character
we were
design?
really lucky. We were able to get a window with Jason Baird, an amazing prosthetics SFX guy. He was Academy Award nominated for Elvis, and we got him hot on the heels of that. And he just really loved the script, and so he offered his time, even though there was like just no time for him to come and get involved in such a grandiose thing, like helping us design these zombies and then bring them to life. And so we really couldn't have done it without him. And
it was all practical.
Yeah. So, you know, him and his team just knocked it out of the park. And, you know, I've never made a zombie movie before. There was elements of a zombie with 1922 with Molly Parker. But apart from that, like, you know, this was all new to me, like, especially to have to do so many zombies and so many dead bodies. And so we just had I just surrounded myself with the most professional people I could, so that we could, you know, have a crack at pulling off what we tried to pull off with quite a modest budget.
How fun was it to get to break into the houses?
Oh, it was fun.
Rage room kind of vibe, yeah.
There were a couple times, there was the one, well, it's also terrifying because you think, oh, we have maybe 2 chances at this, so every single thing has to go right. But the window smashing moment, I remember everyone gathering really excited for the that. But strangely enough, it's very intimate. Even filming in someone else's house, when you know that you're filming in someone else's house, it's incredibly intimate. And by virtue of what Ava is she is part of the body retrieval unit. She is trying to find people who have been either killed or somewhere in between by this event. Of course, the story is very intimate, but actually doing that is very intimate. You're seeing people's, of course, there are the props, and then you see people's real images. You see their real family photos. So that also, and because we had filmed in so many different houses, that also added a sort of tangible reality to the film, which is that these are people, and to Mark's point, these are people who are searching for answers. They don't know what they're going to find, but every person looking for bodies is hoping that they're going to find someone they love, and they're either going to find them alive or they're going to find them as a zombie. And how do you process that journey, and how do you process the end of the journey, the finding?
Yeah, and I think some of those elements that you're talking about, Mark, it kind of helps Riley develop some empathy, would you say?
Riley develops empathy, or the audience develops empathy for Riley? Because if I was doing my job right, that's what I hoped would happen, was the audience would be a little confused. And you know, I'll wait to see what the audience response is. But I thought it was really important that it wasn't just, you know, here's this guy and he's the antagonist and he's the bad guy. And it's like, there's a really complicated sort of moral, psychological space that he's in. And you just, what happens is what happens. But they're also, you know, and then Ava's moving on, and it's just this like hectic thing that just took place. But also you're left wondering, like, could that have not happened like that? Maybe. But you know, it's just where everyone's at that time.
Yeah. And for Ava, I found the most scary thing about the sequence we did together is Riley's grief is very palpable, and the desperation of him finding the answers is also understandable to Ava. They're going about things differently, but nothing is more terrifying than not thinking someone is the full antagonist. Thinking, I actually understand what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, but what the situation that's occurring is still terrifying. It's a very confusing moment.
The best of the heroes of their own story, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Anyways, guys, I'm very excited for audiences to see this one in the theater. I feel like this is made for the big screen, as they say. So I hope you all have a great South by Southwest. Thanks for stopping by.
Cheers.
Thanks
for having
you.
us.